for people who are experiencing life differently, who are showing up in life differently. And one of those groups of people that we have to think about are new moms, moms in particular, who are attempting to be a part of the breastfeeding community. Joining me right now is Tina Sherman. She is the Senior Director for the Maternal Justice Campaign at Moms Rising. And Tina has dedicated her professional life to supporting and empowering moms and families. She served as a legislative aide in the U.S. Senate and has worked with several child and women's advocacy organizations, is an active advocate on the North Carolina Moms Rising Steering Committee, and a certified birth doula. That's my dream job, folks. Once I finish being a lawyer, I'm going to be a doula and a midwife. I promise you that. Tina Sherman, it's such a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much. It is a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm excited to have this conversation about the Pump Act. I remember it, oddly enough, it's my son's birthday today. And I remember what it was like nursing both of my children. And I was blessed to have a wonderful support system. I was in corporate law, so they made sure they had a room that was dedicated. I mean, it was like a storage room, but it was a room that I could have, and myself and the other moms. And so pumping was an active part of my life once I returned to work. And I nursed my children, both of them, until they were 2 years old. And so the idea of not having the ability to do that because an employer has decided it is not important, that to me or an employer, put it this way, we've been talking about regulations and deregulation today. An employer has decided it's just not within the economy of the business. It's not profitable to allow this to happen. Talk with us about the challenges that people face when they are attempting to pump milk to provide for their children, and how the law has stepped up in the past in some ways and yet has missed entire swaths of people for whom this is a very important issue.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm so excited to talk about this law. So, what we know, just like the story you shared, we hear from members every day about the challenges that they have in meeting their breastfeeding goals. And we want to be clear that we know the doctor's recommendations for breastfeeding and lactating, but we know that for so many, it's an actual false choice.
Right.
We know that, like you said, so many folks do not actually have the ability to express milk at work and are returning to work. We know that moms return to work within 1 out of 4 moms return to work within 10 days of giving birth. So
oh my
we know
God. Wait, whoa, hold on. Whoa, stop, time out. Oh, wow. Okay. So here's my privilege, right? I was a corporate lawyer at pregnancy. I had 6 months maternity leave. 4 months that was given to me, and additional months that I was able to just take. You just said moms are returning to work within 10 days after giving birth, which I remind the audience is one of the closest moments that you come to death without actually dying. If you are so lucky, and if you are so blessed, and if you have access to healthcare that's not riddled with racism. And within 10 days of that experience, you've got a significant number of moms who are returning to the workplace.
Yes. And for those of you who either have not given birth, or maybe it's been a little bit of a while and you don't remember, you're still wearing those really pretty mesh panties. And you're still not sleeping and leaking and all of those things. And yes, 1 in 4 moms are returning to work. So when we talk about, families, parents being able to breastfeed and chest feed, lactate in whatever ways they want to, we have to remember that 1 in 4 do not have access to paid leave. And so they are returning to their work site. So first and foremost, so it is a false choice, right? We understand this. False choice. But that's a conversation for another day. We're going to come back to paid leave because we are still fighting for that. But what we did win at the end of last year was the ability for moms to be able to, and also people who identify as moms. I want to be clear, it's non-gendered.
Right.
To be able to express express breast milk or lactate during their workday. And this is regardless. So over a decade ago, the nursing, oh my gosh, I'm not going to remember the legend. Well, because we were celebrating the Pump Act, I'm not going to remember the original bill, but over a decade ago, we did win accommodations for a wide range of workers. But this bill that was signed, it was a part of the omnibus spending bill that the president signed at the end of last year, included provisions to close those loopholes and bring almost nearly every worker under this. So whether you are working retail, whether you are working
Huh.
working at the fast food restaurant, whether you're a corporate lawyer, whether you're a farm worker, you now have the legal right to take a break time, and to express milk in a private non-bathroom workplace.
Wow. I think that legislation you were talking about in 2010, was that the break time for nursing mothers law?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you. Yes, it
Okay.
was.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I remember thinking, wow, that's fantastic. They just passed a law that it's going to allow lactating moms to breastfeed. But I later learned that a significant portion of moms who are lactating were not covered by this law. What were
Nine
some of the
million.
gaps? 9 million
9
mothers.
million.
Jeez. Okay.
Yes. And I want to be clear, it was just a loophole when the Break Time for Nursing Mothers Act was enacted. It was included in this, bear with me, very wonky, Fair Labor Standards Act. And the employees that are covered under that act is a very narrow set of employees. And
Mm.
so folks who were not covered are like nurses and teachers and farm workers. These are folks that
Wait.
fall out of this.
Hold
Note
on. I
also
got to
that
stop you
who
again. I got to stop you again. Because you said nurses and teachers, and I'm laughing out loud, because how on earth can a profession like teaching, which is 80% of teachers are white women. Nurses are overwhelmingly women. I mean, my dad was a nurse, but like overwhelmingly they are women. How are these heavily women occupied professions? How on earth was a loophole big enough for those entire professions to fall through back in 2010?
that was exactly what I say. If you note that those professions are mainly occupied by women, yes.
Wow.
So this law closes that loophole. Now, I do want to be careful that there are two groups that are not included in the immediate. So this bill went into effect at the end of last year. So if you're listening right now, you are covered. Tell your mama, tell your
Mm.
grandma, tell your auntie, tell your uncle, tell your sister, tell everybody you know. And I just named all of the female types. So tell your uncle and your grandpa and your brother, because everybody needs to know that these are workplace protections that cover nearly all workers. The two that are not
Wow.
included immediately are motor coach.
Huh.
So and those are immediate. That those will go into effect in 2 years. So that just, we have a
Okay.
little bit of a delay.
Okay.
And the ones that we are still fighting for, we're not giving up the fight, but who were unfortunately carved out of this bill, are in-flight crew employees. So we are still fighting for
Really?
them. But I want to be
What is the
clear, we're still
reason
fighting
for?
for them.
Yeah, no, we're gonna keep up the fight, and we will make sure that we elevate this issue on this show, because this audience loves a good power work assignment. But what is the rationale for the delayed entry or the delayed coverage for folks who are working in the motor coach industry, and the lack of coverage for flight attendants? Do we know what was behind that?
That is a good question. Industry fought really hard.
Mm. There go those regulations again, folks. It costs too much money for us to be able to allow lactating moms in the motor coach community to be able to do this. It costs too much money for us to be profitable if you are in the flight attendant, in-flight crew community, to be able to do this. This is why regulations matter, and this is why advocacy matters. So, but you said that you're covered right now. I don't recall seeing massive celebrations about this to alert employers that this is what they have to do. I'm imagining there probably wasn't a here's the new lactating room, reveal at most workplaces. What should employees who are learning about this for the first time today, listening to you, what should they be seeing at their jobs that would signify to them that they are covered and their job is compliant with this regulation?
So that is a really good question. That is why I'm so grateful that you're having me on, because I was celebrating, but there were not huge celebrations that happened. I will say that President Biden just, if we circle back to our conversation around paid leave, he
Mm.
just acknowledged the 30th anniversary of the Family Medical Leave Act, which
Wow.
was the first step. We want to take note that, again, groundbreaking, but the first step towards paid leave. So 30 years ago was enacted the Family and Medical Leave Act, allowing people to take unpaid time off. Okay, so it was the first step. He did acknowledge, as a part of those celebrations, he did acknowledge the PUMP Act, and we're going to talk about also the Pregnant Worker Fairness Act. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Mm.
But he did acknowledge that. So I wasn't the only person celebrating. President Biden was celebrating as well. But yes, we have not seen it in all of the newspapers and all of all over the TV like we should. It wasn't the Super Bowl ad with Rihanna. It should have been in the Super Bowl, right? We could, but it wasn't there.
Oh, that was a missed opportunity. Whoever's handling communications, she could have held up the Fenty pack. She could have rubbed the belly, put maybe a little pump on the breast. I mean, all of that was a missed opportunity, but that's all right, Rihanna.
Exactly. We'll circle back, Rihanna. We're here. You're ready to talk about it. But we're trying right now to inform folks. The Department of Labor, Wage and Hour Division, again, very wonky. I apologize, but it is the Wage and Hour Division of Department of Labor. It's starting to formulate. They have some basic information out on their website, and they're starting to formulate more detailed information, some FAQs. They're sending bulletins out to employers. And so information is rolling out. You would think that after 10 years, we would have been ready. It was the end of the year. We were so excited. And then we're still slowly rolling out, but it is signed into law and people are covered. And if anyone has any questions, I do want to offer a helpline that folks can call if they have any questions about what their coverage is, how they're covered, if they're covered. The real important part of this also is that there is a private right to action, because we know that, right. Oh, and
okay, so the reason I said, ooh, y'all who are not in the legal community is because, Shayla, I'm putting a link to an article that I would like us to tweet out if we can, because private rights of action means that I can sue. Like if I'm supposed to be covered by this law and my employer doesn't cover me, I can sue. I don't have to wait for the Attorney General of my state to get a whole bunch of complaints from people like me so she can file a lawsuit. Shout out to Attorney General Tish James. But I myself have a private right to go to a court and say this legislation exists for my protection. My employer is not protecting me. Ergo, here's my lawsuit. Did I do that correctly? It's been a while since law school.
Absolutely. So immediately a lawsuit can be filed immediately right away, because also we want to recognize that, again, this is, a very, very vulnerable time women and lactating people are in. We recognize they can't wait months. They can't wait for that, for Tish James to file it. So immediately, if there's a violation of the break time requirements, and if an employee is fired or threatened to be fired, and if the employer has indicated that there is no intention of providing space for pumping, a lawsuit can be filed. If there are questions about whether the employer is meeting the expectations, they can check out the Wage and Hour Division at the Department of Labor. If there's questions around what any specific, if they're qualified, if you need any additional specificity, excuse me, couldn't get that out. I encourage folks to contact a free legal helpline by our partners at A Better Balance. And their number is 833-NEED-ABB.
Need ABB. Okay, so that's N like Nancy, E like Edgar, D like David, A Apple, B Beta, B Beta. Need ABB. What does that stand for?
Need a Better Balance.
Oh, okay. I like it. That works.
A Better Balance is the name of the organization. Yes.
I really like this. And I'm still stuck on that. A quarter of women are going back to work within 10 days of giving birth. And one of the reasons is because I'm remembering when I was speaking with a lactation coach, child, look at all the privilege. Lactation coach, maternity leave. It's almost like I live in a European nation where all this is provided for free. My God. But I remember them saying that because I planned on nursing on demand, that those first 2 weeks, those first 14 days, it was going to be important to let the baby nurse as much as they wanted, because that would signal to my body some sort of biochemical signaling that, okay, this baby is hungry, so this baby gonna need to eat a lot, so we have to produce a lot of milk. And if you are going back on day 7 of that 14-day experience and you now are regulated to pumping, I mean, this is wonderful in terms of additional benefits, but think about all of the lactating mothers who up until this point were back at work within a week, having to figure out what they were going to do in terms of other ways of meeting their child's needs. So this is a massive piece of legislation. Hugely significant. And the fact that there is a private right of action, it just makes my little lawyer heart really, really happy and excited. And so I guess now my question is, how do we continue to spread the word? Obviously, you're here. We're talking about it. You said the Department of Labor is distributing information. Should we be talking about this in the sister circles and the mama circles? I know the brother circles need to be discussion, because even if you're not a lactating mama, if you are somebody, you a male identified person, you could benefit from this, because the people in your life could benefit from this. So this is something that I think our faith-based community should be addressing. Yeah. We should hear this in more spaces. Am I off on that? Let me know, because I'll be about it.
No, I absolutely. I'm thinking at every baby shower, we need to be sharing this information, right?
Yes.
Every baby shower. Yes.
I love that.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes. So, and to your point, you don't need to be a mama or expecting. You just need to help share this information, because I'm sure that somewhere, someone along the line who is expecting or will be expecting,
right,
that you can share this information with. And, again, we're going to try to get more press coverage around this. Really appreciate your having me on to talk about it. But, it's going to take this sort of word of mouth as well. So it's going to take a joined effort. So I'm calling all of you in, and I think you're going to tweet out some of the information sheets that I shared. That would be really, really helpful as well.
Yes, absolutely. And y'all, this is another example. Today, Tina, is Ujima Day. And so Ujima fell on a Wednesday in the Kwanzaa principles. That's the collective work and responsibility. You don't have to, as you said, you don't have to be a lactating mother for this to matter to you. Those of us who are, thank God, no longer having any more children, bless the name of the Lord, we should be able to advocate for people who are, right? If I know that I'm secure and I don't have this need for myself in my workplace, I can ask this employer, the supervisor, those who are at the higher up, where is this set up for those who are going to need it? Let's start being advocates for issues that perhaps don't even necessarily directly benefit us, but we know will make a difference in the lives of people that we are connected to. So this is the type of work that we need to be engaged in. When we think about the village and the overall health of the village urban view, this is what I'm talking about. It's not just, oh, well, that's a good legislation for them. No, this is good legislation for the village. And we got to make sure that people know it. Yeah, and that they can take advantage of it. Tina, it's been a real pleasure having you here. Thank you for breaking this down. I do think we need you to come back to talk about the paid leave situation. Go right ahead. Final comment. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would love to we've spent so much time talking about the Pump Act. I want to also share one other really important law that was signed into law. It's called the Pregnant Workers Fairness Law. And
wait a minute, Tina, do you hold on one second. Do you have to go right now? Like at the top of the hour? Do you have to go? Because you're going to drop a whole new law. We got 2 minutes left in the segment. What's the name of the law? We'll bring you back. What's the name of the law?
All right, we're going to come back. We're going to talk about it. It's the Pregnant Workers Fairness Law. And what this does, this is real simple though. What this does, believe it or not, prior to this law being signed into law, goes into effect in June, the end of June. It allows pregnant people to be able to sit down if their doctor asks them to. Maybe go to the bathroom if their doctor, to go to the bathroom if their doctor,
right now, right?
Go to the bathroom, have an extra bottle of water. So we're going to come back and talk about that, because it goes into effect in June 29th. So we're going to come back and talk about that. But prior to this law being signed into effect, these were not legal protections for pregnant people.
So your doctor says you got to sit down because you're pregnant and your child could literally drop out the uterus, but you can't sit down by law. The doctor say you can have some water because you dehydrating because you're literally drinking for 2, and the boss can say no. Oh my God. First of all, I'm mad at you for introducing this at the end of the segment, but that's all right. We're going to bring you back.
We're going to come back.
Know about this. I didn't know that this was not already covered, so I'm mad at myself for that. But this is Pregnant Workers Fairness Law. That will be the next item on the list for Moms Rising. Tina, thank you so much for being with us today. How can people follow Moms Rising before they cut us off at the commercial?
Yes, thank you. Follow us at Moms Rising across social media. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you for being with us today. Y'all, we have to go into a commercial break. My head is spinning. How are you pregnant? And the doctor say you should sit down. And the boss is like, no, I need you to stand for productivity because of regulations. In any event, folks, we're going to head into a commercial break. We'll take some calls on the other side of it. And we're going to be talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene, because her national divorce conversation, it's really not about the national divorce that she's talking about. It is about planting seeds, the way only Republicans are really good at doing, that will allow for them to shape what the next round of debate and national conversation looks like. Much more to come on the other side of the break. We'll be right back after this.